If I were to start podcasting all over again, I would do something very different. Specifically, I will live stream every single conversation, yes, with the video turned on, for guests. Whoever is comfortable, I will go live for every conversation. Trust me on this, live stream is going to be a household name by the end of 2020. So whenever you're watching this, definitely pay attention to live streaming, multi-streaming. And today in this video, I'm going to walk you through specifically how I, as a podcaster, a live streamer, will go about streaming the conversations I've been having with my guests. I started my podcast called Feisworld, which was pretty much my first creative endeavor back in 2014. Now we have over 250 episodes, and most of them do not have videos. And I never went live with any of those conversations. Instead, it took us, me and my producer, Herman, weeks into the editing process. And then we have to have a completely separate marketing launch event. I would have done that completely differently today. In the description below, I've included pre-live, live, and post-live marketing steps that you can implement right away. Plus, you can adapt to your own needs instead of doing exactly what I do. So I want to take that work out of you. I want to give a shout out to Restream, who sponsored this video. By the way, we started collaborating on this series of videos after I have chosen Restream to go live with all my content. If this sounds good and you have a guest you have already scheduled to interview on your podcast, one or many guests, something you want to consider is to go live with our conversation. Step one, you need permission. The good news is that since the beginning of the pandemic, people are way more familiar with Zoom, which I have a separate video to teach you step by step how to connect Restream with Zoom. So there's no other change really on your end other than using Zoom and just simply pressing custom go live button and you're live. So check out that video for sure. But here's what I would do. First, before you go live, I recommend that you announce this event. Otherwise, people won't find out about it. So announce it on social media. Yes, that includes wherever you're on, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. Also consider going live to announce the event. That is before you have the actual conversation, but simply go live for a couple of minutes to say, hey, BJ Miller is joining Feisworld Podcast. I'm so excited to have him here. And let me tell you a bit about BJ. If you don't know who he is, he's a palliative doctor, all that jazz. So give people a teaser. So you want to do this at least 1 week before your go live event. And then again, 24 to 48 hours before you go live. Then with Restream, what you want to do is go ahead and connect all your social media channels, as many as you want, because within Restream, there's an option for you to toggle a specific channel on and off. If I want to go live only on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, I can do that and simply turn everything else off. You may be wondering, how many channels are you referring to here? Because Restream does give you dozens of channels to choose from, with some of the more popular major ones definitely presented in the US. So it's completely up to you. Also think about if you have a website, consider creating an event page. I finally did that, and I broadcast and actually talk about and share all my live event way ahead of the scheduled go live date. Now let's talk about going live. What should you do while going live? First, I welcome my guest to join me on Zoom because everybody's already familiar with that. Restream does have a studio that allows you to stream with up to 10 guests. I've used that with Ian Gray recently, and it's really convenient. For my other guests who are very new to live streaming, and I typically use Zoom because everybody is so efficient at it, it's a really good idea for you to invite your guests 10 to 15 minutes before the go live time. So if that means it's noon, well, maybe have them join you at 11:45 a.m. So that gives you time to test the microphone, the video, and to make sure everything is working as expected. Another reason is if you're a podcaster, you probably know that you're having conversation with a lot of people for the first time, and sometimes even the only time during the interview. So that will be a great opportunity for you to warm up to the conversation. And then before you go live, give them a countdown. Let them know what's going to happen within the first 5 minutes of the interview. And here's my process. I let my guests know that I'm going to introduce them. And when we go live, I need to press a button and I'll give them a countdown, something like 3, 2, 1, and I will officially announce, hey, we're live. And even if your audience hears you say that on social media, that's perfectly fine. In fact, that's pretty friendly, and that gives them a reason to tune in right away because it's urgent and top of mind. And here are some of the mistakes I made. My producer Herman and I also edit these live streaming episodes to be regular podcast episodes later on. Therefore, it's really important for you as a podcaster to lead the way. If you work with somebody else, or even if you edit these episodes yourself, what you want to do is have a clear beginning and ending. This is something that I wasn't so good at, right? I would, step one, actually hit the record button on Zoom. I do recommend you do that because when you hit record to cloud or record to your local computer on Zoom, that gives you a backup option so that you don't have to rely on downloading the live stream video from Facebook or YouTube. By the way, that it's completely doable. Those videos are saved. However, the quality isn't always as good, and sometimes a little clunky with Facebook. It's harder to find where to download the video. And there's even a risk of that failing and you won't have a backup option. So I always recommend that you hit the record button. If you do hit the record button on Zoom, I recommend that you have a clear beginning, which is when you first go live. And then when you end the conversation, what you want to do is tell your audience, hey, I'm done talking to BJ Miller and we're going offline now. Bye, guys. After you say that, you want to hit the pause button that looks like a square, the stop button on Zoom. So then that will basically cut off that video right at that point. So if you want to stay on with your guest a little bit longer, which I always do, sometimes for 15, 20 minutes, that will be a separate video. Another best practice I want to mention is because some of these live streaming videos, in particular with interviews and guests, could be longer, you might want to consider that your people, meaning on social media, may hop on and off at times, right? So there's some people are there at the beginning, some people hop on 5 minutes in, 15 minutes in, even 20, 50 minutes in. So you want to occasionally reintroduce the guest and let people know who you're speaking with and what the purpose is. You want to make that brief. Literally, it's just 1 to 2 sentences. You know, for example, again, hey, today I'm talking to Dr. BJ Miller about palliative care, also about a new service and company you started, blah, blah, blah. You know, just give it a very brief reintroduction to the conversation and the guest. Last but not least, if you're going live on Facebook, make sure that you understand that when you go live, that feed is not only to your friends and family. Of course, if that's what you want to accomplish, great. But if you're like me, who's trying to reach as many people as possible, you want to give people an easy way to share your conversation. So if I go live on my personal profile, or you go live on your personal profile, there's a chance that Facebook will automatically default that to friends and family only, which means if Joe Schmo wants to share the conversation, his friends won't be able to see it. So there's a little button on Facebook where you can change your conversation, your content specific to this live stream to be public. Let's talk about post live. Now, in order to share these conversations again and again, you know, just like everything else, like how you manage your podcast, you want to do that more than once. In fact, I argue that you can repurpose your conversations for a lot of things. Some of you may be thinking about courses. Yes, you can actually break down some of these live streaming materials into content and courses you can host on Skillshare or Member Vault or Teachable or Thinkific. It can get pretty exciting. You can also create things such as sound bites using Headliner so that you can take, say, a segment that's maybe just 15 seconds, 30 seconds from your live stream with or without captions so that your audience can consume it again and decide whether it's relevant to them. And what I find with these repurposed, shorter sound bites content, all of a sudden you're drawing in a whole new audience. Now people who didn't think that this conversation will be relevant to them, all of a sudden want to tune in. So take advantage of that. So I hope you find this video helpful. Again, my name is Fei Wu from Feisworld Media. I publish right here on YouTube on a regular basis. I do have my podcast called Feisworld Podcast, which was the very beginning of my entire creative journey in the past 7 years. And I couldn't be more grateful. If you haven't hit the subscribe button, please do, and hit the notification bell so you know when I release my next piece of content. So we'll have many more videos here talking about live streaming, multi-streaming, and how podcasters like yourself could really take advantage of that, choosing the channels where you want to go live and make the most of it. Good luck, and I can't wait to see you in my next video.